In our world, it often seems that ruthlessness and success go hand in hand. You see it in boardrooms, in politics, and sometimes much closer to home. But this isn't just a coincidence. No, it's a pattern, a strategy used by people with a very specific psychological makeup. And today, we're going to dissect that very architecture of manipulation. And that really is the central paradox, isn't it? We're taught that things like cooperation and empathy are the keys to a healthy society. And yet, we're constantly faced with evidence that those who exploit, deceive, and dominate, well, they seem to climb the ladder with this unnerving ease. So the question becomes, what gives them this dark advantage?
The answer, you see, began to take shape in the field of psychology. This wasn't about simple villainy or just one flawed character trait. What Paulus and Williams identified was a whole constellation of behaviors, a framework that would fundamentally change how we understand antisocial success.
They gave it a name, the Dark Triad. It's three separate personality constructs that, when they appear together, create a really potent formula for manipulation. Now, these aren't necessarily criminals. They're often our bosses, our colleagues, and sometimes even the people we fall in love with. So let's take a closer look at each of these traits. To really understand how this all works, we have to dissect each component part, because while they do overlap, each trait brings a unique weapon to the manipulator's arsenal. So the first and probably the most familiar is narcissism. But listen, we're not talking about simple self-love or vanity here. We are specifically looking at the grandiose type.
And the key here is the fragile ego at its core. You have to understand, the grandiose narcissist's entire world is built around feeding that ego. They genuinely believe that the rules just don't apply to them, and that other people's resources are like a natural tax that's owed to them. Their charm, it's just a tool to get that validation.
All right, let's move on to the second component. The name comes from the cold-blooded political strategy of Niccolo Machiavelli. This is the strategist of the triad.
So here's the crucial difference. While the narcissist needs your applause, the Machiavellian needs a result. They have what researchers call social intelligence without empathy. They can play the part of the perfect friend or colleague for years, just waiting for the exact right moment to make their move. For them, manipulation isn't personal. It's just the most efficient path to their goal.
And that brings us to the final and most dangerous facet of the Dark Triad, psychopathy. Specifically, what experts call subclinical or everyday psychopathy. That word subclinical is really important. It means these individuals have psychopathic traits, but not at a level that gets them formally diagnosed or put in jail. They operate just within the rules, enough to avoid any real consequences. Their defining features are a profound lack of conscience and a lack of fear. Their charm isn't a personality trait, it's camouflage. It's a tool a predator uses to get close to its prey. Now, abstract definitions are one thing, but to really grasp the danger here, we need to see how these traits actually show up in the real world. This is the predator's playbook in action. Think about a first date. For someone with these traits, it's not about connection. It's an active expansion. The narcissist will use what's called love bombing, just showering you with affection to create this intense, immediate bond. The psychopath, on the other hand, will test your boundaries, asking overly intimate questions, gauging how you react to their dominance. And the Machiavellian, they become a perfect mirror. If you love art, suddenly they're an expert. It's all about building a foundation of false trust. Or take the workplace. Here, these traits can be incredibly destructive. The narcissistic boss, for example, creates a divide-and-conquer culture.
They'll pit team members against each other, all competing for a tiny sliver of approval, which of course only solidifies the boss's power. Meanwhile, your Machiavellian colleague becomes a master of gaslighting, subtly twisting information until you start to doubt your own sanity and your own competence, which conveniently clears their path up the corporate ladder.
So, why? Why do people behave this way? Is it a choice, or is there something deeper going on? Well, a lot of the research suggests the answers lie in the cold blueprint of our biology and the relentless logic of evolution. Neuroscientists like James Fallon have done brain scans on people with these traits, and the evidence is compelling. They consistently find reduced activity in two key areas: the orbital frontal cortex, which is the seat of moral judgment, and the amygdala, which processes things like fear and empathy. In essence, the biological brake that stops most of us from harming other people, it just isn't working. It's not that they ignore their conscience, it's that it's neurologically muted. But why would evolution ever select for traits like these? Well, according to evolutionary psychologists like David Buss, the Dark Triad can be seen as a fast life history strategy. The idea is that in environments with intense competition and instability, the slow and steady path of cooperation, well, it's less effective. Instead, a strategy of quick exploitation, grabbing resources, and switching partners frequently can actually be a more successful way to pass on your genes. And this leads us to a really chilling conclusion. Our modern world has, completely by accident, created the ideal habitat for the Dark Triad to flourish. Think about it. Systems that reward short-term gains over long-term stability, like quarterly profit reports. Social platforms that measure your worth in likes and followers. Political arenas where dominance matters more than substance. All of these reward the very behaviors of the Dark Triad. We've built the environment where these traits aren't just an advantage, they're celebrated. Okay, so understanding the problem is the first step, but the most critical question is still out there. How do you protect yourself? This isn't about fighting fire with fire. It's about building a firewall. Your defense really comes down to 3 essential connected actions. First, you have to recognize the patterns. Knowledge is your shield. It allows you to see the manipulation behind the mask. Next, you must detach. You have to abandon any hope of changing them or fixing them because your emotional engagement is their fuel. And finally, and this is the most important part, you have to create distance. That means setting firm, unbreakable boundaries. Clear, non-negotiable lines that you enforce consistently. You have to get this. This is not a game you win by playing. It's a game you win by refusing to play. And this is maybe the most vital thing to take away from all of this. The Dark Triad isn't some monster lurking in the dark. It's the charming new person you just met. It's the high-achieving boss, the charismatic leader. They thrive not because they're hidden, but because we're often unwilling to believe what's happening right in front of us. Recognizing their strategy, that's the first and the most powerful step toward making it completely useless.